A dramatic escalation in an already white-hot Middle East today. For the first time, Israel attacked Qatar, a key U.S. regional ally and the mediator of ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas. The target, a meeting of senior Hamas officials in the capital, Doha. As Nick Schifrin tells us, in response, the White House voiced rare criticism of Israel today.
Today, an attack in a country trying to mediate peace. Residents of Doha flee explosions. Multiple Israeli airstrikes targeting the homes of Hamas's entire remaining political leadership. Hamas says all survived, but 6 people died, including the son of one of the attacked leaders. Israel called the strike a response to yesterday's attack in Jerusalem that killed 6 Israeli civilians, for which Hamas took responsibility, as well as the deaths of 4 Israeli soldiers yesterday in Gaza and the precise targeting of those responsible for the October 7th terrorist attacks.
I said at the beginning of the war that no one involved in that massacre will get away with it. As Prime Minister of Israel, I'm working to fulfill this promise.
Israel acted wholly independently, and we take full responsibility for this action. And this action can open the door to an end of the war.
But the strike targeted the very Hamas political leaders who could have helped end the war diplomatically. They were considering a new U.S.-Israeli-backed ceasefire plan for Gaza that President Trump had called a last warning. Earlier in the day, an Israeli official told PBS NewsHour Israel had provided the U.S. a heads-up before the strike. But today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt criticized the strike and said the heads-up came only during the attack.
The Trump administration was notified by the United States military that as Israel was attacking Hamas, which very unfortunately was located in a section of Doha, the capital of Qatar. Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals.
But Leavitt also suggested the target was legitimate.
However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. President Trump immediately directed Special Envoy Witkoff to inform the Qataris of the impending attack, which he did. The president views Qatar as a strong ally and friend of the United States and feels very badly about the location of this attack.
The attack happened at 3:46. The first call we had from an American official was at 3:56, which is 10 minutes after the attack.
Tonight, Qatar's Prime Minister Mohammed Abdul Rahman Al Thani called Israel's attacks, quote, state terrorism, and said they ended the Gaza negotiations.
When it comes to the current talks, I don't think there is something valid right now, while after we're seeing such an attack.
Israel's attacks continued to target Gaza's largest city and its highest buildings. And today, Israel distributed thousands of leaflets instructing Gaza City residents to evacuate to the south. Israel pushes on with its vow to capture Gaza City, forcing Gazans to once again pack up their entire livelihoods and flee to the south, and to grieve the war's youngest victims. Omar Sarur's grandson was sleeping when he says an Israeli strike killed him.
He was sitting there sleeping in a tent with his father and mother, and he didn't see anything except a missile that hit the tent. He was a 5-year-old child. By God, this is truly injustice. This is a crime you are committing.
Tonight, President Trump added to the White House's earlier statement about the Doha strike and further distanced himself from it, writing, quote, "This was a decision made by Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was not a decision made by me." For a deeper look, we turn to Mona Yacoubian, Director and Senior Advisor of the Middle East Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a Washington think tank. She has over 3 decades of experience working on the Middle East. And David Schenker was Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs during the first Trump administration. He's now a Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Thanks very much, both of you. Welcome to the NewsHour. Mona Yacoubian, let me start with you. What's your response to Israel's strike in Doha today?
Well, it's stunning. It's unprecedented. This is the first time we've seen Israel strike the capital of a Gulf country. and a country that also happens to host the largest U.S. military installation in the region. It marks a very dangerous escalation in tensions.
David Schenker, do you see it as a dangerous escalation?
Well, I think it is something that is unusual, maybe not so unprecedented. Israel has killed Hamas officials in Arab states before. But this is something that I think much of the region will see as provocative and a little reckless.
So let's talk about the region. A senior diplomat from a Gulf country told me this tonight, that the impact of the strike is that nobody feels safe because even the Trump administration, this diplomat told me, couldn't stop Netanyahu from attacking Qatar, which is designated a U.S. major non-NATO ally, and that, quote, I would put a big question about whether the Abraham Accords can survive, unquote. Of course, the deal that the Trump administration made during the first administration with multiple Middle Eastern countries and Israel. So, Mona Yacoubian, do you agree that the impact regionally is that high?
It's quite significant. I mean, this is the region has increasingly viewed Israel as the primary threat, not Iran. They see Israel as acting with impunity and transgressing international law and norms on a regular basis. Whether it goes so far as to have countries withdraw from the Abraham Accords, that's an open question. But there's no doubt that the region increasingly views Israel as the chief purveyor of destabilization.
David Schenker, what's the impact of that? Do you agree with that? And if that's the case, is there a threat to some of the Abraham Accords work that you yourself did?
Well, there's no threat that Qatar will now not be joining the Abraham Accords. They were not on the list or even remotely have the potential for being there. But I think there's other things that are actually more of a threat. Just last week, United Arab Emirates said they would slow down normalization, maybe suspend the Abraham Accords, withdraw from their ambassador from Tel Aviv if Israel decided to annex territories. We've heard really bellicose statements toward Israel coming out of Jordan in response not only to the threats of annexation of the West Bank, but also the impending dig ops and operations in Gaza. So at a minimum, Abraham Accords aren't going to be expanded anytime soon. Let's keep in mind, though, that this Gaza war, the longer it goes on, the longer it's going to take for any of these potential partners to get in line, to normalize, to do anything close with Israel.
Yeah, Mona Yacoubian, the cynic in me says, well, the impact on the Abraham Accords, the impact on the region is really just what happens in Gaza. And it's not really a huge impact to have a strike in Doha, despite what you guys have said, in part because the military leadership in Gaza is the one making the decisions, not the political leadership in Doha.
Well, what we're seeing, look at the ways in which the Gulf countries and others have really come together in the face of this latest action by Israel. I don't think it's limited just to Gaza. I think the region more broadly takes a look at, takes account of Israel's actions. Let's note, this is now the second time in just a few months that Israel has undertaken military strikes in the midst of negotiations, whether it was the U.S. and Iran or now the Qataris seeking to negotiate between Hamas and Israel. I think it's raising much bigger questions in the region about what role Israel sees for itself. What is its end game? And, I think it does broadly raise questions about whether or not and how Israel could eventually be integrated into the Arab world.
David Schenker, if you were still Assistant Secretary of State right now, would you advise, should the president impose any kind of penalty on Israel for targeting a U.S. non-NATO major ally?
Listen, I think Qatar can withstand quite a bit. Let's remember that this summer they were attacked by 12 missiles coming from Iran. They didn't do anything in response. I think Qatar, which sort of plays it both ways at many times, for them, this is sort of the price of doing business, perhaps. But no, I don't expect sanctions. In fact, I think the U.S. knew about this well in advance. Udaid, our largest base in the region has a force protection footprint of the whole island. And so this must have been cleared, days, if not more, beforehand. But fortunately, I think Qatar has accepted the sort of, the U.S. explanation, notwithstanding it straining credulity.
Just to be clear very quickly, David Schenker, the White House said clearly today that it did not get days or any kind of advance notice. It saw the planes in the air.
The threat for of mistakes for a major U.S. base in the region to have airplanes flying toward it, this requires some coordination beforehand. So I think the United States, the Trump administration, is trying to thread the needle here, give the Qataris sort of plausible deniability that the U.S. was not implicated somehow. But my sense is that it's more than likely we had a little bit more advance notice.
Mona Yacoubian, just in the 20 or so seconds we have left, what's the impact of this on the negotiations to end the war in Gaza?
I think the negotiations have been set extremely far back. Any hope for a ceasefire now is just a distant prospect at best.
Mona Yacoubian, David Schenker, thanks very much to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.